de aprender español.
Let's start off the class today by reviewing what we did last time with the verb ser. And to do that, you got it, I'm going to put it on a chart. So right over here, I'm going to put the verb ser. And we'll draw our chart again, our one line down and our two lines across. Okay, now remember, ser means to be. But like we told you last time, we can't say ser with everyone. We can't say yo ser or tú ser, because that would mean I to be or you to be. So we have to conjugate it. We have to change it up a little bit so that it fits with each of those pronouns we learned in the last episode. So last time we were together, we put those forms of ser on the chart and we talked about what they meant. So let's just kind of go back over those. The first one we wrote was soy, and we talked about that meant I am, okay? And then we went down here and we put eres, which means you are, if you're talking to someone that you know in a casual and informal way. And then down here in this bottom part of our chart on the singular side, we put the word es. Now, es, as you remember, can mean either is or are. It depends on who you're using it with. If I say he is, it would be él es. If I say she is, it would be ella es. But if I'm speaking to someone directly and I want to say you are, but I'm using that usted more respectful form, es in this case would mean are. So usted es means you are in a respectful way. Okay, now over here on our plural side, we put three conjugations as well. And up in the top right, we put somos. And as you remember, that means we are. And right here, we put the word sois. And again, this is that form that's pretty much a Spain thing. Not real common in this part of the world, in Central America, South America, Mexico. But it is used. And then down here in this part, we use the word son. And that means they are. So if we wanted to say they are, we could say ellos son. We could say ellas son. Or if we wanted to say you are, plural, speaking to more than one person, we could say ustedes son. Okay, now that we reviewed the verb ser, we have to take it a step further today. In English, to be only has one form. The word to be itself also is, am, and are. So we can use those words with any pronoun. I am, she is, we are, etc. The issue in Spanish is that there are two different ways to say to be. And so today, in the classroom portion of our time together, we're going to talk about when we use this one and when we use the other form, which I'm going to give you today. So let's start out by laying a good foundation of when we use the verb ser. Now, to give you sort of a visual, something that you can remember, we usually refer to the word poppin', P-O-P-I-N. I teach my students regularly the word poppin' to help remember the conditions under which we use the verb ser, these forms here. Now, poppin' is just a little way for you to remember these conditions. The first condition is a permanent condition. What do I mean by permanent condition? Well, anything that doesn't change. So for example, if I wanted to say that building is really tall, I could use is, es, to say is, because the building being tall, it doesn't change. That's a characteristic of that building. It doesn't change. That's the way it is. So therefore, a permanent condition would be an example like that. The building's tall. Now, another condition, the O stands for occupation. Anytime in Spanish we're going to say someone's occupation, their job, we're going to use a form of ser. So, for example, in Spanish, the word lawyer is abogado. So if I wanted to say he is a lawyer, first of all, in occupation, we don't say a, we just say he is lawyer. So we would say él es abogado. And that would be how we say he is a lawyer. So since it's his occupation, we would use a form of ser to say is, am, and are. Okay? Now, the next letter, P, stands for place of origin. When you're stating where someone comes from, their country of nationality, you would use a form of ser to state that. So if I wanted to say I am American, I could use yo soy because I'm stating my place of origin. Or I am from the United States. I could say yo soy de los Estados Unidos. Since that is my place of origin, I would use one of these forms to say that. And next, we have identification. Identification is any word that really identifies who someone is. If you're talking about their characteristics such as being tall or funny or serious, those words we mentioned in the last episode, then we could use one of these forms of ser, like we did last time. So if I say, he is tall, él es alto, we would use es to say is for he because it's his identification. And finally, the N stands for nationality. So, just like place of origin, nationality, they're kind of along the same lines. Again, if I wanted to say, we are from Puerto Rico, I could say, nosotros somos de Puerto Rico. Nationality, nosotros somos Puertorriqueños. We are Puerto Rican. Okay, so these are the conditions under which we use ser. Okay, so let's just kind of summarize for a minute. If I'm speaking Spanish and I want to say the word is, am, or are at any time, I'm going to have to make a choice. These are forms of ser. Sometimes I can say soy to say I am, or eres to say you are. And so if I ask myself, is it one of these, my sentence that I'm talking about, the subject, if I'm saying one of these things about the subject, then I can use one of these forms of is, am, and are. Okay, so make sure you go over those and get them down, get them on that chart. So when you're speaking Spanish, hopefully really soon, and you need to make that choice, you can just make the decision. Okay, now we're going to move over here for just a minute, and we're going to learn the other way to say to be. Now, again, I'm going to draw another chart because that chart's a great visual for us. Okay, so draw another chart, and it's one line down and one line across. Now, the other way we say to be in Spanish is estar. So I'll write that up here. Estar means to be as well. Okay, now I'm going to start out by giving you the forms of estar, the is, the am, and the are of this form of the verb. Okay, so right up here in the top part of the chart, I'm going to write estoy. It ends a lot the same as soy, but has a different root to it. So estoy means I am. And then right here in the middle, we're going to write estás. Now, a few of these have accents on them, but I'm going to tell you that at the end because I want you to get the visual. And down here in the bottom left, we're going to write está. Okay, so this would mean I am. This would mean you are, speaking to one person in that casual, informal way. And then down here, está, meaning he is, she is, or you are, speaking in that respectful way. Now on the top right, on our plural side, we're going to begin by writing estamos. Estamos means we are. Now right here in the middle, we're going to write estáis. And in the bottom right, we'll write están. So this would mean we are, you are, plural, speaking to more than one person, and they are, or you are, speaking to more than one person, again, plural. Okay, now 4 of these have accents. The easy way, if you're getting that chart visualizing it in your head, if you're starting to imprint it in your mind, the easy way to remember where these accents go is all you have to remember is that the 2 on the top don't have accents. All the other ones do. Or if you want to think of it differently, the bottom 2 on each side have accents. And put them on the A, right here, like that, right there, and right there. So now we have our correct writing in place and our accents going. So we have our forms of to be over here, and over here we have our forms of to be. Now here comes the challenge. The challenge is that when we're speaking Spanish, we have to make a choice, just like I said before. So for example, if I want to say I am, I can either say yo soy, or I can say yo estoy. The question is, how do I know the difference? Okay? So all you have to do is remember 2 things about estar. You've already got popping the conditions under which we use ser. Now I'm going to give you the conditions under which we use estar. And there's only 2 of them, so this is easy. And I want to give it to you in 2 different ways because some of you may find one easier to remember than the other. All right, so we're going to use estar in 2 ways. First of all, we're going to use it to state a temporary condition. Now, temporary condition is anything a person is going through that is not permanent. Now, I want to go ahead and tell you, this is mainly feelings. So if you want to go ahead and just get it in your mind that all feelings are temporary conditions. All feelings in Spanish are estar. We're going to express those using estar. Okay? So if you wanted to say, I am sad, estoy triste. Okay? She is sad. Ella está triste. Okay? So we're going to use these forms to say our is, am, and are when it's the subject's temporary condition. Now, the only other one we have to remember for estar is location. Anytime we state someone's location, we are going to use estar. Now, if I wanted to say I am at the mall, I would say yo estoy because that's my location. Now, sometimes it gets confusing because we think of ser as the permanent and estar as the temporary or the feelings. But the problem comes is that when that location is a permanent location, you have to remember that location is always estar, even if it's a permanent location. So if you say Atlanta is in Georgia, you still have to say Atlanta está in Georgia because it's the location of Atlanta. Okay, so don't get confused on that. Any location is estar. Now, some of you may find, like me, may find it easier to remember a little saying or some phrase that helps you connect these together. Now, a lot of times my students like to, instead of remembering temporary condition or location, a lot of times they like to just remember this. How you feel and where you are, that's when we use estar. So if that's easier for you to remember, go with that one. Okay, well, let's look at some comparisons here. So in the event that I want to say I am, I have to make a choice. As we mentioned a while ago, I can either say yo soy or yo estoy. So I have to ask myself the questions. Now, some of you may be saying this is a lot to remember or this is a lot to remember. My college professor in Spanish told me to keep it really easy because when I was young and learning Spanish in the very beginning, I tried to make this really difficult and remember all of this and all of that. And she looked at me and she said, all you have to do is remember this, temporary condition or location, and everything else is said. And when I started applying that rule, I started finding that she was right. I could always answer the question, whether it would be ser or whether it would be estar, just by asking myself those 2 questions.